we're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, May 27th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Chuyong.
Happy to be here.
Having also Fabulous with us.
Happy Wednesday.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're now right in the middle of the work week, which means it might be the perfect time to check in on one thing many of us probably spend a little too much time looking at, our phones. So have you ever checked your screen time and immediately wished you hadn't? So whether it's endless scrolling before bed or just watching just one more video that somehow turns into a whole hour, our phones have quickly become a huge part of our daily routine. So today we're asking a simple but slightly dangerous question. So what is your screen time these days? Chuyong, do you want to go first?
Well, my average screen time is around 2 hours these days, which I think is not too bad.
It's not.
It's very good.
It is great. But it also says like my screen time went down by 47% compared to last week.
Aww.
But I guess that might be because I'm recently got into this new Nintendo Switch game called Pokopia. So these days in my actual free time, when I actually allow myself to unwind, I just play my Nintendo Switch too. But the real problem is how I spend the little periods of free time I get throughout the day. Since I'm a freelancer, I try to discipline myself by using the Pomodoro technique. Have you guys heard of it?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's like working for 45 or 15 minutes and have a 5 to 10 minute break, but I do 15-minute work and 10-minute break. And during those like 10-minute breaks, I just like grab my phone and open an Instagram on autopilot. Then I start doom scrolling. It's not even fun or entertaining, but I just do it all the time before going to bed or waking up or on the bus while waiting for someone else. So out of those 2 hours of screen time, Instagram and YouTube probably take up about like 3/4 of it. And sometimes I literally have to say out loud like "Kuman," which means stop, that's enough. To snap myself back to reality.
I think considering you actually create content, I feel like 2 hours on your phone isn't too bad.
Yeah, it isn't
Thanks
too
to the
bad.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
What about you, Fabio?
I'm so jealous. You see, I think my average is around 10 hours. I would
10
downplay
hours?
it. I would downplay
Really?
it and say 7 hours, but the reality is usually 10 hours. But to be fair, I'm also a freelancer. So of course I use social media and listen to music, read, do everything on my phone. But at the same time, I also have to edit videos and remember scripts and write down things and even be in contact with people. So apps like CapCut or Instagram, Kakao Talk, and what else? Well, basically
We're just listing all these apps.
Yes, even like Google Docs. Those are some of my most used apps, and so the runtime in my phone tends to be quite big. But to be fair, most of my friends also have 10 hours, so I feel like I'm out of place right now because 2 hours would be a milestone that I could never achieve.
But for you, I guess you do have a good excuse because you're actually being quite productive on your phone, right?
But also dependent, so I would love to change it a little bit.
Right. So these days, smartphones aren't just for entertainment anymore. They basically become an office, editing studio, communication tool, and social space all in one. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Wherever you go these days, it's common to see people glued to their phones. On the subway, at cafes, even while walking down the street, many find it difficult to look away from their screens because that's where they work, communicate, and entertain themselves. But as smartphone use continues to rise, so have concerns over digital addiction and the impact excessive screen time can have on our daily lives and relationships. That has sparked conversations about how to create healthier boundaries with technology. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at restaurants and cafes that are actively trying to limit phone use and share our own thoughts on monitoring the amount of time we spend on our phones. Just as we saw in the video, concerns over smartphone addiction are now beginning to change the way some people dine and socialize. In fact, some restaurants overseas are now encouraging customers to put their phones away altogether. So what's behind this no-scroll dining trend that we're seeing, Fabio?
Well, this whole trend comes from the idea that people should be living the moment instead of staring at their screens when they go to public spaces, especially spaces where you're paying for a service to enjoy. So in countries like the United States and Japan, we are seeing restaurants that are applying this no-scroll rule. And it might sound a little bit restrictive at first, but there's a lot of strategies around it. So, for example, instead of just simply saying you are not allowed to use your phone, sometimes they might give a little gift, like an ice cream, if you are able to, not go under the temptation.
They're really doing the most to encourage people to do this.
Sometimes they might even ask for your phone before you enter the space, and if they see you on your phone, they might even tell you to leave.
Oh, okay, that sounds a bit scary.
It sounds scary and rough, but when you really think about it, the reason why a lot of these restaurants are becoming, are making headlines and are becoming quite popular is because people are asking for them. It's because people want spaces where they are motivated to actually not use their phone. When they have that restriction, they feel more safe to be on the same page as other people and not miss out. So it feels quite, I guess, involving and surrounding to be around people who are doing the same stuff that you are doing. And so it's definitely more welcoming when everyone is not looking at their phone.
Right. I feel like it's also a great place. Those restaurants will be great to go, I guess, during if you're celebrating someone's birthday or trying to celebrate someone, I guess. That is a good way. That is actually quite surprising, especially the idea of asking customers to leave if they keep using their phones, which sounds quite effective. At the same time, though, it does show how seriously some places are taking the idea of creating a more focused and meaningful dining experience. And this trend is also sparking debate over whether limiting phone use in public space is helpful or simply too controlling. And that's why we also wanted to hear directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on the IDI News YouTube channel where we also asked people what they think about restricting phone use in restaurants. And here's what the results showed. So according to the results, opinions were fairly divided. So 54% opposed it, arguing that restricting phone use in restaurants was an excessive limitation on personal freedom. Meanwhile, 46% said they support the idea, saying it could help create a more immersive and focused dining experience. So it seems many people recognize the negative effects of excessive phone use, but at the same time, some people are still uncomfortable with the idea of restaurants controlling personal behavior. So are we seeing then similar digital detox trends right here in Korea, Gia?
Well, yes, actually, we've seen something similar pop up here in Korea. Digital detox cafes. They have become popular among the MZ generation. In those cafes, you hand in your smartphone at the door, and even in some places, like even talking to other people isn't allowed. And some people might think it's a bit extreme to ban customers from using their own phones, but as Fabio pointed out earlier, they are voluntarily visiting those places. They're not being forced to go because they want to disconnect from digital devices. People are actively seeking these places out because they want to take a break from constant stimulation and mental exhaustion. And the data backs that up. A survey by the Korea Health Industry Development Institute surveyed around 230,000 people, and 1 in 8 adults admitted that their daily lives are being negatively impacted by excessive digital device use. So people are genuinely looking for ways to manage this. But even with all that, this kind of digital detox culture hasn't really made its way into the restaurants in Korea yet, and I think that's what makes this overseas trend so interesting to see.
But it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because I think cafe culture is really big in Korea.
Yes.
People go to cafes to study and also, so I think that's really interesting. It started at cafes. And what else is interesting is because it shows many people don't necessarily see phone restrictions as a punishment, but rather as a chance to take a break from constant notifications and screen fatigue. So bringing those rules into restaurants could definitely spark mixed reactions. So the big question is, are we actually addicted to our phones? So let's do a quick self-check test. So if 3 more of these apply to you, you could fall into the at-risk category. So let's see where our panelists stand on this. So the first one is you use your smartphone for more than 2 hours a day. Yes or no?
Yes.
Second one is you have more than 30 apps installed and actively use most of them.
Yes.
So you take your smartphone into the bathroom. That's a pretty common one, I'd say.
Yes.
The fourth one is you feel anxious or uneasy without your phone. And the fifth one is if your phone rings during a meal, you immediately check it.
Yes.
So, how many did you have?
Well, I didn't have to change the side. It was all
yes, I guess you are definitely at risk. All
am
fine. What about you, Fabio?
I got 4 points. I don't know. I think 30 apps is a lot.
There, yes.
But outside of that, yeah, I relate to most of them.
So I guess we both have all, you both have all more than 3, so I guess a lot of people are at risk.
It is a problem. It is a problem.
So honestly, I think a lot of people probably realize they scored higher than they probably maybe expected. Now, some of these habits sound harmless at first, but together they really show how dependent we've become on our phones in our daily lives. And that brings us to a bigger debate. So would a no-scroll policy, Fabio, work, I guess, in Korean restaurants? Young told us it started in Korean cafes. But would it work in restaurants?
I think it might work to some extent, and it might be more helpful for teenagers rather than adults. And for example, my home country, Spain, serves as a good example. You know, recently a law was passed where those teenagers under 16 are not able to use social media without their parents' consent. It's not fully taking place right now, but it's already in the air. So I feel like something similar could happen here in Korea. And actually, according to data, there was a very nice survey in 2024, as we can see on their screen, where this was conducted by the Korea Institute of Childcare and Education. And the average daily smartphone use of among 1,200 first-year high school students was that of 6.02 hours a day. Now, usually for students who are very busy studying and doing exams, it might seem a little bit concerning or excessive. But when it comes to perceptions, nowadays a lot of things are changing. So for students themselves, around 86.3% thought that it wasn't really a problem. But when it came to the parents themselves, only 54.6% agreed on those terms, with the rest of them considering maybe a possible risk or a high risk situation. But overall, I must agree, as I also commented that I have around 10 hours daily on my smartphone. I feel like the perception of younger people when it comes to the use of this type of devices is slightly changing. And so the more hours are becoming, you know, common on our use, on our daily use, the more normalized we become to that type of situation.
And I think in certain cases it's hard for that to be perceived as an issue because sometimes you have to use your phone to be productive, to do work as well. So what are your thoughts on this, Gina?
Well, to me, I'm afraid it wouldn't work that well. I mean, there are already situations where phones are restricted in Korea, like concerts or performances. And it makes sense because it improves the quality of the experience. But there's also still the general sense that checking your phone at a family dinner is kind of rude. But the thing is, in Korea, smartphones are already so deeply tied to the dining experience itself. QR ordering, mobile payments, and waitlist apps, you kind of need your phone. It's just part of eating out now. You need it for ordering and pay and even to get in line. So banning it completely feels a bit unrealistic. So I think a softer approach would go over a lot better, like giving people a small reward for choosing to put their phones away, like Fabio pointed out, giving ice cream, free ice cream for not using it. Yeah.
So both sides actually do make some valid points. So rather than banning phones entirely, the more realistic approach may be encouraging people to voluntarily spend a little less time on their screens with a little bit of incentives like ice cream. And so to get a more personal and in-depth perspective on this, we're going to talk to a young person who's also trying to limit her tech usage. And that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Jassio, who has experience taking a voluntary break from using technologies such as smartphones, computers, and social media. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
So Jassio, how did you digitally detox and what motivated you to do it?
Okay, I'll start with the motivation, I guess. I used to watch short form content thinking that it was like a quick way to have some fun without getting too invested into like a full-length movie or a full YouTube video. But I realized that like the algorithms and quick pace of short form content made it much easier for me to lose track of time and, to find things that catered exactly to my taste. So it would keep me from looking at the clock. And eventually it became a total crutch for me, and I got really scared realizing how quickly I picked up my phone whenever I got bored or felt awkward in a situation. So the way that I've been trying to digitally detox is through setting reminders on all social media and like video watching apps that'll remind me every 30 minutes that have gone by while I've used the app. And 30 minutes is kind of a lot, but I feel like that's kind of the threshold for me to be like, wow, I've spent a lot on this app. And then also for several months, I made it so my home screen was just black and all the app icons were gone. It was just white text on a black screen instead. So it was much less visually stimulating than having the apps. And not being able to see app icons made it harder for me to want to click them. So it was somewhat of a dopamine detox that led to a digital detox. And then lastly, I've installed apps that completely disable non-productive apps for certain time periods. So one of the apps that I've used, which is called Focus Friend, it kind of gamifies it. So it's like a little friend or a little pet that you have that the longer you don't touch your phone, the more little prizes that you can win. And then you could decorate its room with these little prizes. So it kind of turns it into a game and makes you want to put your phone down, while also completely taking away your choice and making it so you can't touch other apps at all. Because if you do, then your pet no longer can be taken care of. And that app actually was like the top app on the App Store for a while. So I think it kind of shows how many other people are looking for a solution to help detach from their phones like this.
Oh, wow, that's very creative, I think. So, what do you think about the growing movement to minimize technology use?
Yeah, I think with algorithms keeping us entertained and things like AI simplifying tasks and making a lot of difficult decisions for us, a lot of people are becoming really reliant on these new technologies without realizing it. So myself included, like I start my day by opening my phone and going into YouTube or Instagram just because it's much easier to quickly like get a dopamine hit or be relaxed and happy when I wake up by looking at content mindlessly rather than seeing my schedule and thinking like how many tasks I have for the day. So a lot of times, even though we're fully capable of doing the tasks and getting started, it's a lot harder to like choose actively to pick up a task and be productive rather than choose to just open our phones or go on an app just because it's so much easier. So I think this no scroll trend and digital detoxes are really helpful because it takes away a lot of that strain and it takes away our choice in it. So once we're forced to be bored and kind of have no other option, it's easier to sit down and focus on the task. And then once we're started, at least for me, once I get started, I realize I actually do enjoy being productive and doing self-care. And I like a lot of the work I do. Like it's helped me pick up a lot of my hobbies again. And if I didn't have those apps or those ways that I've been digitally detoxing, I think it'd be a lot harder for me to look at a kind of slow-paced hobby and think of it as more fun than going on to TikTok or some just really quickly looking at short videos.
I love that many of your strategies help you, get out of that dopamine type of addiction and really focus on hobbies that were more filling. So in your case, for example, when it comes to specific situations, places, do you have sometimes a rule of like, this is a moment where I'm not using my phone?
Yeah. I think when I'm with people, when I'm doing like an activity with friends, or if I'm just outside eating, like if I'm making a conscious decision to have a meal with someone else, I never want to touch my phone because I think being on my phone as often as I am has made it so my memory has gotten worse. And it's made me feel bad a lot of the times in my relationships. So I want to make sure that if I'm sitting down and having a meal with someone, or I'm actively choosing to go out and do an activity, that I'm fully connecting with them and hearing everything they say. So not touching my phone makes it easier to remember those things later and feel a deeper connection with people. And then I also have a very strict rule for myself that I can't touch my phone when I'm sitting at my desk. So if I'm sitting at my desk, it's like the productive zone in my room because I need to have at least one space where I'm not getting distracted. And it helps a lot because whenever I sit down, I automatically go into focus mode. And so I'm so strict about it that anytime I need to touch my phone, even if it's for something academic, I have to stand up and either pace around my room or go back and sit down on my bed and then treat it like a break because I know that touching my phone in my desk completely breaks that kind of focus environment that I've created.
I think that's actually a really good idea. And I think I might actually try that too, to tell my brain that this is a space dedicated to a no phone zone. I think that'll be really helpful. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Jatsia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke with someone who has personally experienced digital detoxing, including taking intentional breaks from smartphones and social media. We also heard her thoughts on the growing no-scroll culture and the situations where she believes putting away your phone is important. So it's interesting to hear how people are trying to create healthier boundaries with technology in different ways. So after today's discussion, how do you feel? And is there a digital detox trend you'd personally like to try, Jiyoung?
Okay, so honestly, I was reminded of the reality that we're facing, and it's a bit sad. And people are so hooked on social media these days that they cannot even stand a few seconds of just waiting at a crosslight without it anymore. And the most frustrating part is like once you click on social media, you just cannot get out.
Yes.
And this whole no scroll movement in cafes and restaurants is basically saying, get off your phones and be there in the moment. And I think it's great that people are coming up with ideas like this, but it also makes me a little sad because we reached the point where we need them. But it does make me want to try my own version of digital detox, and that is actually being present in whatever I'm doing instead of being glued to my phone. I know it's like very cliche to say it, but and this
It's important, right?
Yeah, it is very important. This reminded me of something that my friend did. She bought a record player because she really wants to listen to the music that she loves, not as a background noise, but as something that she sits down and savors and takes them all in. And I want to do the same, focus on one thing at a time, the way we're supposed to do as human beings. And for those moments, I'll keep my phone on DND mode, do not disturb mode, and just leave it in another room entirely.
But I think that's so true how different other hobbies get kind of influenced by your phone, because I like reading, but I tend to sometimes read on my phone and then I get distracted.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
So I understand
I've
where
been
your
there.
friend is coming from. So what about you, Fabio?
Listening to the interview and hearing some of the strategies, I kept thinking to myself, am I able to do this? And I think there's a very big problem here, which is that the phone is so useful that it's very hard to separate the productive aspect of it and also the dopamine aspect of
Right.
it. So yes, of course I use my phone a lot to just fill the noise or to just not be bored while I'm eating. And so that type of doom scrolling is definitely affecting me negatively. But for example, having a space where I'm only being productive, for me, in order to be productive, I do need my phone. So it's really about not code switching all the time on the phone, because it's so easy to go from YouTube to Excel,
Right.
on the same device. So trying to create those limits or using specific applications that limit your time on other applications like social media might be useful ways of detoxing. So I do want to detox and reduce some of that time so that I can use it for hobbies that really fill me and make me feel even happier. So I'm looking into that. But if I really had the chance and I wasn't so dependent, especially when it comes to work, I would go to a resort hotel and just have a lovely vacation without my phone, and I think that would be a blast.
I mean, that's a great excuse to go on a great vacation.
Exactly.
So today's discussion showed that smartphones have become so deeply woven into almost every part of our daily lives, from work and communication to entertainment and also dining. At the same time, the rise of digital detox trends and the no-scroll spaces reflects a growing desire to disconnect even temporarily from constant screen time. So whether it's putting our phones away during meals or simply becoming more aware of our habits, finding a healthier balance with technology may be something many of us are still trying to figure out. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 in Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Jiyoung.
It's great to be here.
Javi and also Fabio.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this will inspire you to give your thumbs a break from all that scrolling. We are
News Generation.